Tonight on First National, Health Canada says there's no need to ban or remove dental fillings containing mercury. And bombardment in the Chechen capital as a new Kremlin power struggle plays out.
From Global News, this is First National with Peter Kent.
Good evening. Our lead story, Health Canada's conclusion that for most people, mercury amalgam dental fillings do not pose a health risk. As infants, we were fascinated by them. In fact, they sometimes looked good enough to eat.
Rock and roll reality check. Tonight, the earthquake that has caused so much damage and death in Los Angeles. Also tonight, deadly drugs. 100% heroin is claiming victims across the country.
Canada Tonight, the nation's news first. Here is Tony Parsons.
Good evening, and we begin tonight not in Canada but in California, where they've been still assessing the damage from this morning's earthquake. A tax cut for some, a pay cut for others. What's ahead for Canada's unemployment insurance scheme? Also tonight, domestic assault when the man claims to be the victim.
Canada Tonight, the nation's news first. Here is Tony Parsons.
Good evening, and we begin with the hottest speculation in town about the coming cuts to social programs.
The nation's top stories tonight.
Marathon bargaining and the GM strike. Is there a deal? Women and body image. Is it brainwashing?
Right now, Canada Tonight with Tony Parsons.
Good evening. They've talked and they've talked, broken bargaining deadlines and set new ones only to break them.
The nation's top stories tonight.
The family of a murdered 5-year-old speak publicly for the first time. They all fall down. The last remnants of Sydney Steel implode on cue.
Right now, Canada Tonight.
Good evening.
Live from BCTV, here are tonight's top stories.
No death penalty. The Supreme Court rules 2 Canadians can't be executed.
Right now, Canada Tonight with Bill Good.
Good evening. No matter what crime they commit.
Don't you just hate newscasts that only bring you the bad news? All right, we'll only start that way. Summer's over, folks. The highways out of cottage country in Ontario are bringing everybody home. It is the same story across the country tonight. Let's go to Vancouver now. People are getting ready for work. It's time for kids to go back to school. And it's time for Global National to take its first few baby steps. Tonight, a Global National investigation. Is Ottawa driving the sick to drug dealers? Deadly Mountain, a rescue operation is underway in the coastal mountains. And the Canadian school that trains tomorrow's world leaders today.
Global National with Kevin Newman.
And we kick off tonight with some significant victories in the war on pot. They march as they have every year since the 1870s in Canada. But this workers' parade likely marks a tough season ahead for anyone hoping their jobs will be better this year. Unions say relations with companies have rarely been as prickly, and older workers are being asked to do more with less. The lazy days of summer are over with a thud. This is Global National. Here's what else is happening tonight. What was his plan? The gun he tried to bring on a jet. The U.S. flight school he failed. As Americans stay out of the skies this Labor Day, the jitters are back. The all-night party that ended in tragedy. 6 people shot near Montreal. The cops questioning thousands of kids. What happened inside the Red Light Club, and is gang warfare to blame? And we're chasing the truth tonight of that big airline security tax Ottawa promised to review September 1st. How much of it has actually been spent on security? How much is simply another tax grab? Tonight, Global National's Troy Reeb investigates.
Global National. Here is Kevin Newman.
There is a great deal of mystery tonight around a man yanked off a plane in Sweden yesterday and what his intentions were. It is the Canadian image, the shinny game on frozen outdoor ice. Nostalgia for the purity of this moment, a big reason so many Canadians are excited again about hockey tonight. Because at this converted football stadium in Edmonton, some of the greatest hockey players of our time have laced up one more time, outside. Number 99 for the Oilers, Wayne Gretzky. Number 10 for the Montreal Canadiens, Guy Lafleur. Here to honor an anniversary and a forgotten tradition. This is a special edition of Global National from the Heritage Classic in Edmonton. Tonight, we'll examine the health of Canada's favorite sport. Ice cold beer here. How smaller Canadian franchises are clinging to financial health. How girls are involved in record numbers, but are sometimes ignored. And you'll hear how it feels for number 99 to be an Oiler again. Also tonight, the day's other news. A Toronto man accused of parking outside a home, tapping into the wireless internet to download child pornography.
The gentleman driving the car was naked from the waist down, and he had a laptop computer on the passenger seat.
The challenge of intercepting pornography without wires. And Iraq's resistance fighters using old world equipment to wreak modern day terror. Using donkey carts to attack. Tonight, Carl Hanlon chasing the truth on American claims of progress in Iraq.
From the Heritage Classic in Edmonton, here is Kevin Newman.
And you are looking at something that has never been done in NHL history. A regulation rink plunked right down in the middle of an outdoor football stadium for a game that will not only make history, but celebrate it as well. Good evening from Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton.
His letters bragging of torture killings in Wichita, Kansas, tormented police and victims' families for years before mysteriously stopping for 3 decades. But just last March, a serial killer known only as BTK for bind, torture, and kill resumed his disturbing mailings to police and media, in which he boasted about murders and included the driver's license of at least one alleged victim. BTK admitted to killing several women as far back as the 1970s. Today, police announcing they have unraveled his tangled web of clues, picking up 59-year-old Dennis Rader at his home. Police believe he is the evil mastermind behind up to 10 brutal killings.
The bottom line, BTK is arrested.
That news earns the police chief a standing ovation. If convicted, BTK may not face the death penalty, though, since it wasn't the law when the crimes were committed. You're watching Global National. Here's what else is happening tonight. He has updated the church in so many ways, but not when it comes to his own dilemma.
It seems a little silly that he hasn't, allowed somebody else to take over his position when he's so sick.
Modern medicine can keep the pontiff alive, but should he continue to lead the church when he can no longer do the job? The largest and most expensive project ever conceived in Canada's far north, a pipeline to ship oil riches from the Arctic to Alberta.
And it's just like destroying our land right in front of us.
But First Nations leaders in this remote community fear this could be the end of the traditional lifestyle they've preserved. And tough measures for safe streets in Canadian cities. Politicians say it's working, but is it really just marginalizing the poor?
I think it's a war on the poor. It's an act of social cleansing, nothing more. We already have laws to prevent people from aggressively panhandling.
From our National News Center, Global National, here is Tara Nelson.
Against our policy and our strategy,
Hello, and thank you for joining us. Hezbollah, Hamas, the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, all the major Palestinian militant groups denying any connection to either the bombing or the suspects.
Tonight on Global National.
He was arrested 2 weeks after returning to Canada. Why does the U.S. want him now? The Khadr family mystery deepens. The U.S. president's defense for spying on his own people.
Do I have the legal authority to do this? And the answer is absolutely.
Does our government too? And our real deal election road trip lands in Edmonton tonight. Why where you live can determine how you'll vote.
Global National. Tonight from Edmonton, here is Kevin Newman.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. We're at West Edmonton Mall for the second of our Real Deal campaign stops. Tonight, for millions of Canadians, the real deal isn't the election at all, but the fact that there are only 5 shopping days left until Christmas. Still, Alberta is a fine place to examine how where you live in Canada seems to influence how you'll vote.
Tonight on Global National.
Hundreds of crashes. Airports and highways closed. A severe winter storm lashes much of the country. The benefit few companies offer, but many Canadians want. What's the true cost of ignoring mental illness in the workplace? And when 2 of their own fall, thousands come to remember them.
The last words I said to Dad on that Sunday were thank you. His were I love you, Kel.
In memory of 2 ordinary men doing extraordinary things.
Canada's most watched national newscast, Global National, with Kevin Newman.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. For a large part of this continent, this February 14th won't be remembered for chocolates and flowers, but for snow and ice.
Tonight on Global National, linking the water kids drink to how smart they are. What's down the well that could lower their IQ?
Now's the time for Health Canada to start looking into this a little bit more carefully.
And how concerned should you be? They promised order in the House, but the controversial gun registry has MPs taking aim. And one controversial treatment for MS, 2 very different results.
Just walk like you normally walk.
It worked for him.
I was hoping that I would walk.
Why didn't it work for her?
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Hello, and thanks for joining us.
今晚的 Global National 国语新闻将为您报道。
在北京出生的第一个龙年宝宝，父亲为加拿大人。一名37岁本国女子在墨西哥5星级度假酒店内遭到残暴殴打。生产黑莓手机的 RIM 公司管理高层发生重大变化。
Global National 国语新闻主播王航。
各位好，欢迎收看1月23号龙年大年初一的 Global National 国语新闻。今天也是我们的首播，我代表 Global National 国语新闻团队祝您新年快乐，龙年大吉。
Tonight on Global National. As the Via Rail terror suspects proclaim their innocence,
he's anxious to see the evidence that the Crown says that it has against him.
Are more arrests imminent? Justice for Ratea. A bullied teen's family enlists the Prime Minister's help to change the criminal code. And shooting squirrels.
Peanuts! The neighbors probably think I'm crazy.
The Nova Scotia woman who captures the secret life of the furry rodents. Good evening and thanks for joining us. The 2 men accused of being part of an Al-Qaeda-inspired plot to derail passenger trains made their first court appearance today, one in Toronto.
今晚的 Global National 国语新闻将为您报道。
2名涉嫌在加拿大制造恐怖袭击的男子今天出庭，均否认控罪。报告显示，加拿大国民缴纳的税款和收入比例高得令人震惊。 中国国家海洋局同时出动8艘海监船，将日本渔船和海上保安厅巡视船驱离钓鱼岛领海。
Global National 国语新闻主播王航。
各位好，欢迎收看4月23号 Global National 国语新闻。首先来关注加国险些出现的恐怖袭击事件。
Denied $1 billion change for Whistler Blackcomb. The mega marketing machine that snapped up the biggest resort on the continent. How did an Ontario boy with limited mobility drown after he disappeared? And the global glitch that crippled one of the world's largest airlines. Plus, they're calling her Canada's Lucky Penny, the debut of a young superstar.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with the takeover of a world-class Canadian ski resort by a huge American company. On this Thursday night, Russia now claiming control of Mariupol. The West says not so fast.
There is no evidence yet that Mariupol is completely full.
Who is still trapped in the city, the weapons on the way, and Russia's newest sanctions against Canada on the path of healing.
We can't change history, but we definitely can change the future.
What happened when the Manitoba Métis Federation met the Pope? What do you get? The woman who has everything.
It was done in a spirit of love and gratitude.
A Canadian artist's gift for the monarch. Plus, smart cookies with separation anxiety.
And I think we went through about 20 boxes of Oreos.
A sweet batch of experiments to break apart the mystery of a beloved snack.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We are watching events in Ukraine closely again tonight, in particular the besieged port city of Mariupol. Russia claims it is now in control there, though that is being disputed. On this Thursday night, that was quick. I am resigning. Liz Truss makes history for the shortest, most chaotic tenure as British Prime Minister. And let us rejoice, the comedy that comes from political crisis.
We need satire.
The race to be BC's next premier becomes a one-man show. Let her run! Why the only other contender was disqualified. Emotional final farewell.
You are my hero.
2 Ontario police officers are laid to rest.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. They say a week is a long time in politics. In the UK, that could be shortened to just a day. The country is about to get yet another prime minister. 24 hours ago, Liz Truss said she was a fighter, not a quitter. Today, she quit.
Compelling.
Some startling details of a young man arrested yesterday.
Clear.
So we can report on his past offenses.
Insightful.
And a young Canadian soldier.
Canada's most watched anchor, Kevin Newman. Global National. News understood.